Hello, I'm John Brisson, author of Fix Your Gut and Health Coach. Welcome to the Fix Your Gut YouTube channel. And today we're going to continue our series on foods that may trigger GERD symptoms or may trigger reflux symptoms. And today we're going to cover two groups of foods. The first being one of my favorite groups, which is citrus fruits. And mainly we're going to talk about orange itself and lemon and in somewhat degree lime too as well. And the issues of why they may trigger reflux type symptoms. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't trigger reflux symptoms too as well. So with citrus, we'll talk about orange first, lemon, and then we'll talk about lime. So citrus fruits in and of themselves do not appear to weaken the lower esophageal sphincter like some of the foods that we talked about last time, like chocolate ingestion because of caffeine or theobromine, or menthol that is found in mint, which actually weakens the lower esophageal sphincter because they're smooth muscle relaxers. So most of your citrus fruits, main ones we're talking about, orange, lemons, and limes, they don't seem to weaken the lower esophageal sphincter. At least based on that standpoint, they don't. Now, in addition, many citrus fruits have differing amounts of D-limonene. Granted, it is not as much as a concentrated D-limonene soft gel is, but they do contain differing amounts of D-limonene, especially lemons and oranges. I mean, that's where we get most of our D-limonene supplements from. It's produced from the oil, the orange peel. So D-limonene in itself, it does in some people, it has a therapeutic window. For some people, it can protect the esophagus and the stomach, and people who take it, it instantly fixes their heartburn. But for other people, it can worsen their reflux symptoms, and we don't know quite why that may be. That may be because of it kills off opportunistic bacteria and helps with dysbiosis of the esophagus and the stomach, and maybe they dump a whole bunch of gram-negative endotoxins, which inflame the general area for a while. That could be why D-limonene, some people react harshly with it. D-limonene can also maybe increase bile reflux because it increases bile production by the liver, and when people reflux bile, it can cause problems too as well. Because remember, when we talk about reflux, and I'll do a video on this separately, there's at least four established types of reflux that we know of. There's probably more. Acid reflux, which is made of stomach acid and stomach contents. Pepsin reflux, which is an enzyme that the stomach produces that becomes embedded in different tissues that can degrade the tissues when it's activated by acid. Bile reflux, which bile is a chemical that our liver produces that is stored in our gallbladder that's released into the duodenum. That's very, very alkaline and very, very caustic to the esophagus. It's actually what causes, more likely to cause Barrett's esophagus and esophageal cancer than the other two I just mentioned. And endotoxin reflux, which is one of the fourth cause of reflux, which are gram-negative endotoxins, these toxins that they produce, gram-negative bacteria produce. You can reflux those, and those can be very inflammatory and very damaging too. I guess if you talk about there is a fifth one, it would be just gram-positive bacterial toxin refluxes and toxins that yeast produce, like mycotoxins. They could also irritate the esophagus and the tissue too as well, and cause reflux too as well. So if citrus fruits like the D-limonene have they don't weaken LES, then why do so many people say that they get reflux from drinking orange juice or drinking lemonade? Well, it could be because orange juice and lemonade have a lot of sugar in it, and sugar can feed the dysbiosis, and then it ends up producing gas, and then you end up getting bloated, and then maybe you have fructose intolerance, and that causes diarrhea, just upsets the general digestive tract, and you end up, your lower esophageal sphincter ends up weakening because of increased abdominal pressure from all the bloating and the gas production by these bacteria that just feasted on the orange juice that you had just given them, or the lemonade, and lo and behold, you're refluxing more than normal, and you start getting reflux symptoms. It could be that. It could be that in some people who have damaged esophageal tissue, because remember, our esophagus has mechanisms in it that produce carbonic anhydrase, which kind of neutralizes acid to kind of protect itself. Because, the average person refluxes 30 times a day, give or take. I mean, we reflux when we bend over. Maybe you might reflux when you laugh. You might reflux when you sneeze. You reflux in someone you're eating. So the esophagus has mechanisms in place to protect itself, but those mechanisms can become damaged. So in people with damaged, mechanisms where their esophagus can't compensate, or there's just general inflammation, the very low pH of the citrus fruits, which are almost as low as hydrochloric acid the stomach produces, it can irritate the tissue. It can irritate the throat tissue, and that's why some people may have reflux symptoms from citrus ingestion. Citrus ingestion, many citrus fruits are also histamine liberators, and that can cause people with histamine intolerance issues that can mimic reflux symptoms. Some people who are allergic to limes because they're allergic to urushiol, which is the cause of we've heard of poison ivy reactions and other toxidendron type allergic reactions. They can react very negatively, possibly to citrus fruits, limes, maybe lemons too, bergamots. And definitely people with silent reflux where they have pepsin embedded in their esophagus and their larynx, and maybe possibly their mouth. When you ingest foods that have a very low pH, it reactivates the pepsin, so that starts digesting the tissue and it starts causing inflammation. So I guess the verdict of what I'm trying to say about citrus fruits is it's unknown if citrus fruits themselves directly worsen reflux by weakening the lower esophageal sphincter. They probably don't. But there are many people who report that ingestion of citrus fruits causes their GERD, but there's just as many who put lemon in their water, and that helps their GERD because it has low pH and it reduces some of the stomach dysbiosis that they have because the stomach's supposed to be acidic and maybe their stomach was more alkaline. It depends on the person. If you're dealing with esophageal inflammation, if you're dealing with silent reflux, if you're sensitive to urushiol or you suffer histamine intolerance, you may want to avoid citrus fruits. They may irritate your esophagus until your symptoms get better. But for some people with GERD, it may be worth trying lemon juice and water. It may help. Or maybe, making a natural orange juice and squeezing an orange itself and drinking that. It may help. But for those other conditions, like I mentioned, like silent reflux or people with severe esophageal inflammation or histamine intolerance or intolerance to urushiol, then it can make your reflux symptoms worse. The next food and the last food that we're going to talk about in this video is spicy food. Now, I love spicy food. I love habaneros. Occasionally, I'll have some ghost pepper sauce, even though that does cause digestion. But I will say this, just like the citrus fruits, the spicy food would destroy me when I had silent reflux. Now, capsaicin, which is the main alkaloid in majority of the peppers that we eat, it does have benefits. It reduces pain by blocking the TRPV1 receptors. It can override the vagus nerve, and in some people, in doing that, you think it would have a paradoxical effect to make them feel worse, but for a lot of people, it actually makes them feel pretty good. It may calm anxiety. And now some of it could be from dopamine too. It alleviates anxiety and depression. Spicy foods can make you sweat, when in itself has its own detoxification properties. So capsaicin in itself, it actually helps to keep the LES closed. Unlike a lot of the other things that we've talked about, that were smooth muscle relaxers like menthol and caffeine and theobromine. So actually, it helps with that. It helps close the LES and increase LES tone. So for people with GERD and reflux issues, that may be beneficial if you could tolerate it. Or people with achalasia, which we mentioned in the last video, where their LES does not weaken properly, you probably would want to avoid spicy food. It also increases esophageal peristalsis. It also increases gastric emptying, which is great for people with gastroparesis. It has an antimicrobial effect, specifically on the upper gut microbiome, like the stomach. H. pylori does not like capsaicin at all. So it does have antimicrobial properties. It also desensitizes the vagus nerve, as well as reduces esophageal pain, as it activates the vilanoid receptor 1 sites with TRPV1 sites. It also increases dopamine and serotonin, which, serotonin can relax the LES, but again, like I mentioned, and it may be because of the dopamine, it seems in studies to increase LES pressure, which would help reduce GERD. So why do people have issues with spicy food, then, including myself? There could be multiple reasons. It could be you eat food that you can't tolerate with spicy foods. It could be that the peppers themselves have very low pHs, and in people with silent reflux, that would irritate their throat. Where I guess pure capsaicin, which is extraordinarily spicy, would have to be diluted. Maybe it would not do that so much. But yeah, I mean, it could be that, hot sauces, the peppers, they all have low pHs, and they're made with, most hot sauces are made with vinegar and pineapple juice in some of them, and that's going to irritate people with silent reflux. You might be able to tolerate maybe dried red pepper flakes if you have silent reflux, possibly. If they're not treated with citric acid or anything like that, you may be able to tolerate those better. It really just depends on the person. So the verdict on spicy food is that capsaicin, actually, for most people that can tolerate it by itself, it generally improves the symptoms, and it actually improves the mechanisms for people who have gastrointestinal reflux disease or reflux. So therefore, in itself, it is not the cause of GERD, like the other things that we had mentioned previously in the past. But it does have its drawbacks. I mean, there are many people who eat spicy food who do get reflux. And again, that might just be because you're eating a high-fat, deeply fried meal that causes, gastroparesis and stomach distension and bloating, and that's the cause of reflux. And it's not necessarily the spicy food in and of itself. It could be the mechanism of which the spicy food is in. For people with silent reflux, for example, you wanted to avoid hot sauces that contain acids, or like vinegar or pineapple juice, or if the peppers themselves can be spicy depending on, or have a lower pH depending on the pepper. So yes, both of these foods, many people eat them and they help their digestion. Capsaicin also helps with people who are constipated. It seems to increase gastrointestinal motility and gastric emptying. It's not very helpful with people generally with diarrhea. It causes them to go more. But people with constipation, the body does adapt to capsaicin over time. It is an osmotic laxative, but the more you eat it, the less likely it's going to help with your constipation. So yeah, both of these foods, both capsaicin, which is found in spicy foods, or citrus fruits in themselves, many people find positive benefits when they have reflux and eating these foods. But many people also, and I had mentioned the negatives in the videos and the reason why you may want to avoid them, they cause them gastric and health woes too as well. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and have a great day.